He was handcuffed in broad daylight for appearing suspicious, but the officers had no idea. The black man they detained was a judge. The very next day, he would oversee their case, exposing a system that betrayed them all. What happened next will stun everyone. But let's start from the beginning. In the lively downtown of Silver Springs, Officer Bradley and Officer Carter moved through the busy streets with an air of authority that had become their trademark. Their reputation for targeting individuals they considered suspicious preceded them. A reputation many locals murmured about, but few dared to oppose. Today their attention fell on a man who, by their standards, didn't belong. Martin Green, a middle-aged black man with an air of quiet dignity, emerged from a sleek black sedan parked near City Hall. His crisp navy suit, a pocket square, polished leather shoes, spoke of success and professionalism. In his hand, a well-used leather briefcase, a testament to years of diligent work. Martin exuded confidence. His calm stride suggested a man with purpose. But to Bradley and Carter, his refined demeanor was not a sign of respectability, but a warning sign. "Sir, stop right there!" Bradley barked, his hand hovering near his holstered weapon. His voice carried the weight of assumed authority, a tone sharpened by bias. Martin halted mid-step, turning slowly, a flicker of disbelief in his eyes. His composed face betrayed only a momentary hesitation before he spoke. "Martin, officers, is there a problem?" His voice, it was measured, steady, and utterly devoid of panic, a response that seemed to unnerve them. "We've had reports of a vehicle matching yours involved in a theft nearby," Carter added, his tone dripping with fake concern. The accusation was baseless, plucked from thin air, but Martin's calm demeanor seemed to provoke them further. He raised an eyebrow. "Martin, that's a serious accusation. May I see the report?" Bradley's jaw tightened. Irritation flashed across his face. "Bradley, hands where I can see them. You're under arrest for obstruction of justice," he snapped, escalating without cause. Passers-by froze, expressions a mix of shock and unease. Several phones emerged, capturing the unfolding scene. Martin complied without resistance, his movements deliberate, as the cold metal of the cuffs clicked around his wrists. "You're making a serious mistake," he said, his voice quiet, yet firm. The officers responded with mocking laughter, oblivious to the storm they had just set in motion. Inside the precinct, Martin Green sat calmly in the holding cell, his composed demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos and hostility around him. Officers Bradley and Carter, fueled by the false sense of authority their badges gave them, took every chance to ridicule his silence. "Bradley, think he's some kind of big shot?" he sneered, drawing a laugh from Carter. Carter, "Guess he thinks staying quiet makes him look innocent," he added, wearing a smug grin. Martin's stoic expression stayed unchanged, his silence only deepening the discomfort in the room. His occasional requests for a phone call were ignored outright. Instead, they subjected him to hours of pointless questioning, more about dominance than discovering facts. Outside the precinct wall, a different story was unfolding. Videos of Martin's arrest recorded by bystanders began spreading rapidly across social media. The clips captured every unjust moment, the false accusations, the aggressive behavior, and Martin's dignified composure. Public outrage erupted online as activists and community leaders condemned the clear case of racial profiling. News anchors debated the footage, questioning the officer's intent, while hashtags demanding justice started trending. Unaware of the firestorm brewing beyond the precinct, Bradley and Carter basked in their perceived victory. To them, Martin was just another arrest, a statistic to boost their numbers. The thought that they had detained someone significant never even occurred. In his cell, Martin finally spoke, his voice sliced through the air with quiet authority. As he addressed the sergeant on duty, "Martin, I need to contact my office. I have court tomorrow." The sergeant smirked, leaning lazily against his desk. "Sergeant, court? What, you planning to defend yourself in front of a judge?" Martin's gaze remained steady. Martin: "No, I am the judge." The smirk disappeared. Silence filled the room, broken only by the rapid typing of a keyboard, as the sergeant hurriedly searched the database. His face turned pale as the truth blinked on the screen. Martin Green, Justice of the Peace, presiding judge at Silver Springs Municipal Court. The weight of their blunder began to settle in. Panic spread like wildfire through the precinct. The storm they had unleashed was turning against them. The next morning, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Journalists elbowed for space, cameras fixed on the entrance. Community members, many who had watched Martin's wrongful arrest online, packed the gallery, their expressions a mix of anger and curiosity. Tension thickened as the clock inched toward the hearing. When Martin Green entered the courtroom, silence swept the room. Clad in his judicial robe, he walked with measured confidence, his presence commanding respect. No longer the man in handcuffs, Martin stood as the presiding judge, his authority unquestioned. He took his place at the bench, his eyes scanning the room, pausing briefly on the two men who had arrested him. Officers Bradley and Carter entered moments later, their usual swagger replaced by visible unease. Their faces were pale, their eyes restless, avoiding the stares of the crowd and the unwavering gaze of the man they had humiliated. Martin's voice rang out, firm and resolute. Martin: "Officers Bradley and Carter, you stand accused of racial profiling, unlawful arrest, and abuse of power. Do you have anything to say in your defense?" The officers stumbled for words, their replies fragmented and unconvincing. They tried to justify their actions with flimsy excuses, claiming to follow protocol, acting on a report, but their defenses crumbled under the weight of evidence. The courtroom reviewed the viral videos of the arrest. Martin's calm demeanor in stark contrast to the officers' aggression. Witnesses testified about the false claims and excessive force, and then there was Martin's spotless record, a justice of the peace with years of unwavering service to his community. As Martin led the proceedings with unflinching professionalism, the fire in his eyes revealed a deeper determination. The irony of the situation hung heavy in the air. The officers had arrested a man on his way to meet the mayor about community reform, only to become the very symbol of the systemic issues he aimed to fix. By the end of the session, the truth had fully unraveled, their version dismantled, leaving Bradley and Carter exposed and justice ready to take its course. The verdict came quickly, delivering a powerful message. Officers Bradley and Carter were suspended without pay, pending further investigation. Their reckless actions and blatant racial profiling were no longer private matters. They were now public outrage. The police chief, clearly weighed down by the growing scandal, issued a public apology. He acknowledged that the department had failed, not just Martin Green, but the entire community. Yet no amount of regret could erase the damage done to the department's reputation, now widely seen as a symbol of systemic racism. For Martin, the ordeal marked a turning point, not just personally, but for the community he had served for years. Instead of holding on to bitterness, he chose action. With his judicial platform and newfound public support, Martin launched a bold initiative to reform the local police force. He worked relentlessly with city officials to create mandatory training programs focused on eliminating racial bias, encouraging community involvement, and restoring trust between citizens and those sworn to protect them. The story of Martin Green, an honorable judge wrongfully arrested by the very system he upheld, galvanized the public. Protests for accountability spread across the city, bringing together citizens of every race and background in a unified voice. The incident became a catalyst for statewide reforms, including stricter accountability policies for officers and the creation of independent oversight boards to investigate misconduct. Months later, as the dust began to settle, Martin stood on the steps of City Hall, a rare moment of quiet reflection. Below him, a new class of police recruits, each selected under the updated reforms, filed into the academy. Their faces, filled with determination and hope, reflected a new vision of policing, one rooted in fairness and respect. Martin's faint smile showed cautious optimism. The scars of injustice still remained, but he allowed himself to believe that real change was possible. One day, he thought justice would no longer be an uphill battle. It would be a given, a foundation that upheld a fair and unshakable society. For now, he stayed committed to the mission, knowing the journey was far from over, but that every small step forward was worth taking.